All right. Well, Brandon Morenin, Joe Garcia, Detroit, Michigan, New Jersey. He invited me out to spend the day with him, have a conversation, pick his brain. He is a masterclass at what he does. And I have a bunch of questions here today that I'm prepared to ask you. So,
let's roll with it.
Number one.
I'm not scared.
He's not scared.
We'll get into anything you want.
Listen, audience. I told him, I said, hey, do you want to review these questions before I start? He said, nope, I'm good. I said, all right, pro. All right, professional. So if you had to reverse, and for some context for the crowd, I'm on pace to do 24 deals this year. So this is encompassing me asking questions to grow my business, and he's just going to give me feedback.
Yeah.
So if you had to reverse engineer a $1 million a year business from just 24 deals, what would that look like?
So 1 million in GCI in income?
Yes.
Oh yeah, not 1 million in volume.
No.
1 million in income.
Yeah.
And you just saying, okay, what does that look like? How do we reverse engineer that? How would we build it?
Yes.
Okay. So to 1 million, we would build it on. So let's talk through this. It's going to take a minute, right? I'm going to get through it as fast as I can for the sake of the content. The solo agent's going to maximize his or her ability to produce by themselves. Step 2 is to then leverage from there, invest into administrative staff, which should unlock another level. So let's do this: $0 to $100,000.
Okay.
My belief is that an agent can get to that point by themselves. One pillar of business by themselves, no other humans in the business. So one pillar of business can be anything. It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. I think the fastest, most profitable way to do that is through direct outbound, but it can be anything, to be fair. So one acquisition channel, one person.
Okay.
To go from 100 to 250, the next step is leveraging administrative staff. The producer has to stay close to the revenue as long as they possibly can. What do I mean by staying close to the revenue? I mean that they need to stay in production as long as possible without leveraging their money or leveraging out of the transaction. So level 2, invest in the admin and allow that admin to take off any non-revenue generating activity so that person can produce more.
Okay.
In other words, from level 1 to level 2, that producer goes from doing everything to level 2, only prospecting, lead follow-up, going on presentations, presenting offers, etc.
Okay.
In level 3, that person starts to leverage out of some of the client-facing activities. Well, what do I mean exactly? So this is client updates. This is presenting the offers. This is negotiating inspections and appraisals, so that all that's left for the producer to go from, call it 250 to 500, and they're leveraging at this level out of the buy side of the business, the showings, right? So they've leveraged out of admin, showings, and all they're doing now in level 3 is prospecting, lead follow-up, and presenting. Okay. From there, now they probably bring on some buyer agents, which would probably be level 4, level 5, where they've got some full-time salespeople that are leveraging the listing inventory on the team for open houses and the buyer side generation. And then from that point moving forward, my belief is that you can leverage out of production based on your leadership ability. It's a completely different skill set than production and sales. You can leverage to $1 million of income without being in personal production if you build a culture of accountability and leadership, which is the value proposition, which is why people would join the team, is they're coming there, Joe, because your ability as a leader is to hold them accountable to a higher standard that they'd be able to produce at a higher level with you than without you. And so that means that at level maybe 5, you've got a business, maybe it's run as a team, Joe, at a company, or you own your own company and you run it like a team ridge. There's no independent solo agents. We're talking about agents that work for the company full time, held accountable to a schedule, to a production standard, et cetera. That's where an agent can get to, because you're going to need to do, in order to get to that $1 million of top line revenue, you probably, depends on what market you're in, but you probably need to be 40, 45, 50 million in volume. And so depending on price point, you can just back into the numbers. That's a high level 3-minute answer. Now there's context and there's nuance and there's a bunch of things inside of there, but I would build the model on personal production for as long as I can. That's what I mean by staying close to the revenue before taking that ultimate leap out of production and succeeding through others.
Well, for a 3-minute high level answer, that was an incredible answer. 5 stages you took us through. Everything made sense. Next question for you. And these questions here are about strategy and scaling, just for the audience to get more context. How do you scale from a one-man show to a machine? You just gave us the high level of the 5 stages, 0 to 100, 100 to 250. From a one-man like myself, when do you know it's the right time to make a hire?
Well, I think first off, the skill set to be able to produce and then to have a transferable skill is something that A, people don't talk about enough, and B, is a skill that is rarely worked on. You see, people that I've worked with and most agents are focused on developing their own ability to produce. It's very rare that that person works on the skill that they have acquired to transfer into another human being. And that's what keeps people, John Maxwell calls it the law of the lid, that your level of leadership will determine your level of income. And you have a lid on that income based on your ability to lead others. So what do I mean by lead others? That means that people that follow you only do so, not because, Joe, you're giving them leads and you're buying them Zillow leads and you're giving them open. People, that's not valuable to people. People that follow leaders do so because the leader, like I said before, help them to produce at a level that they can't on their own.
Okay.
And so when is it time to leverage and to make hires? And, there's a lot of nuance to that question. But if you're talking about return on time, probably as soon as possible. I mean, if you're talking about when does it make sense to hire an admin? As soon as possible, because otherwise you're limiting the amount of income you can generate because your time is being spent on non-revenue generating activities most of the time. In fact, I would argue that 80% of agents' time or more is spent on activities that don't lead to money. And so the idea is to get out of that as soon as possible. Now, you and I both would agree that most agents look at that as an expense. It's something I can't afford to do. The 1%ers look at it to say, I can't afford not to. It's costing me too much money to do these activities that are taking me away from generating revenue. So the answer to your question is as soon as possible.
Okay. What's one system that changed your business forever?
There's many. There's a lot of systems. The art and the skill to be able to generate leads and clients out of thin air. What do I mean by that? Without having to rely on any third-party company or any person for that matter to be able to generate and acquire clients through my skill set, which we're talking about the ability to pick up the phone, go see somebody, go build a relationship, and to turn that into actual dollars. I mean, that is the system that allows somebody to ultimately scale because everyone else is building their business on rented land. Have you ever heard that term before?
The McDonald's movie, Founder.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean in terms of real estate? That means that most people, when they look at revenue generating activities, it's built on the backbone of someone else or another advertising company. They have not yet developed the skill to do it without those companies. To me, those come later as leverage. But the one most important skill in our business, by far, you want to talk about a system, I'm going to talk about in terms of a skill, is your ability to compel somebody belly to belly, face to face, to take action, to hire you, to represent them in the sale of a home. In other words, to be a captivating presenter, to me, is the most important system or skill, because it doesn't matter what the person, Joe, is doing for lead generation, or client acquisition. Can you sit down in front of somebody like we're doing right now and make them feel a certain way based on how you're communicating that would compel the person to say, I want to work with this person. There is nothing more important than that, both in your personal production and when we talk about leadership, because leadership and sales are very, very, very similar in that we're selling ideas to people to take action on or not, based on your ability to communicate those ideas. So I don't know if that's what you mean by system. If it's you're looking at
No, I mean, I think you that's the question, that's the answer I was looking for, because that's exactly what we were talking about earlier today. We talked about, it's crazy how we get on the phone, we use this crazy thing, ATM money machine. We call a random stranger, we meet them face to face, belly to belly, and we get them to take action because we are a presenter that compel them to do business with us.
That's right.
So I think that's a great response and a great answer to that question. Another one, if you could only focus on one thing in your business for the next 90 days, which one would you pick and why?
It's really simple. It's having conversations with new people I've never talked to before. The why is also really simple. The reality, Joe, is that any way you slice it, people aren't where they want to be in this business as a result of simply not having enough conversations. That's it. If you break it all down, it comes down to having enough conversations with the right people that will determine whether or not you get to where you want to go. So for the next 90 days, if I'm an agent and I'm listening to this podcast, I'm saying to myself, okay, we talked about this at breakfast this morning, addition by subtraction. How do I get rid of all this stuff that I'm doing such that all that I have time to do is the vital few? What's the vital few? It's two things. It's going on appointments or looking for appointments. And everything else can be argued as a distraction. It isn't that it's not important. It's just not urgent. So all the agents that want to make the argument, yeah, but Brandon, what about this and what about that? It's important. It's just not urgent. It's not more important. It can't be prioritized over having conversations and meeting with people. Yet our industry, Joe, is made up of people that do everything but those two things. Yeah, and then they want to argue, or they want to pretend why they aren't. They want to pretend like they don't know why they're not where they want to be.
You talk a lot about income servicing activities and income generating activities. I think for you, what you're basically saying is the most important thing is to stick to the revenue. That's the first stage you talked about. But to make sure that you're doing the vital few, which is going on appointments and talking to brand new people.
That's right. I mean, our job as business owners, as CEOs, is to make it rain. That's the job of the business owner, is to, depending on what type of business you're in this context, we're talking about real estate sales, your job first and foremost is to drive the business forward. Well, how do you do that? Through generating revenue. That's the first job. After that, Joe, then people can go be a realtor, and whatever that means to people, whatever they want to do with their time, they can do that secondarily.
So we got to be rainmakers. You heard it here first, Brandon Morenin. So next topic is income, level up, and breakthroughs. What's the difference between 100K, 250K, 500K, and a $1 million and a $5 million earner?
Yeah.
If you can maybe slice it up into those 5 categories.
Well, I think it's somewhere in between what we just talked about, which is the people that are generating the highest level of income have done it through leverage. The answer is leverage. And so to which extent of your leverage will determine your level of income. And so the first level of leverage is admin. That's the thing. The reason why people don't do it, however, is the second level of leverage, which is leadership. These are the two things that people need to unlock. I think what you're getting at is the unlocking of exponential growth of income is leverage, and there's 2 levels to it, right? There's admin, and then there's the ability to lead other salespeople. And these are the 2 skills that we need to acquire to level up income. If not, you will be, which is what most agents do, spend their entire career, Joe, being a one-man band without the ability to make hires with other human beings in their business that allows them to have leverage to do more of the actual revenue generating activities in the first place. Now, If somebody doesn't want that, that's fine. But we're talking about the person, to your point, who, the idea to just keep leveling up your income and just growing it, there's only so many hours in the day, and the idea of a solopreneur just being able to smash the phone for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, I think is very naive. It's going to require levels of leverage throughout the years in order to put yourself in a position to do so. That's number one. Number two, I would say that once you're able to have leverage in your business with people, then you certainly can start to leverage, I think what you're getting at maybe before, with some systems. And what I mean by that is this. We'll call it two really important systems. One is your ability to have a system for communicating proactively with the people that you do know. This is a huge, huge system that I think most agents miss and they don't have. In that, if you really ask somebody, hey, what is your long-term, no BS goal in this industry? It's to generate a high level of income while having a high level of leverage. Would you agree?
Yes, 100%.
The goal is to get off the hamster wheel. The goal is to build a company. And the definition of business is something that generates revenue with or without you. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the reality, then we have to say, okay, what do I have to do that? So system number one is, do I have a system in place to generate opportunities from the people that I know? Past clients, center of influence, et cetera. And then the other system, we talked about leverage. The second system is leveraging listings. So many people, such as yourself, such as me, we are very transactional minded.
Yes.
We are killers in nature. In other words, we want to hone in on a goal and smash that goal. But sometimes we have to slow down to speed up, to say, okay, if we acquire a client, how do we give that client such an experience that client turns into more clients? And now that I have the listing, how do I shift my lead generation to leverage this listing for more listings? So let's just make sure the audience gets this, right? We talked about three things. We talked about leverage. We talked about having a system in place for your past client centers of influence and a way to leverage your existing inventory.
Yes. Okay. This is going to be a good one. How hard was the first million to make?
Extremely hard. Here's the reality. Everyone throws that number around like so nonchalant. That's the problem that I have with that, is everybody says they want to be a millionaire. They don't even understand. They can't even comprehend what that actually means in terms of execution. If you look at, and we should probably Google this, we're talking about the 1% of 1%. It is extremely rare to find people that generate $1 million or more in actual income. It's extremely rare. What's the point of that? That means that with that level of scarcity, it requires something to be wrong with you. Now, what do I mean?
Expand on that. I was going to say.
You have to be a little crazy. You have to be a little not well-rounded. Like people are looking for I want this balance. It is incredibly unbalanced. It's unhealthy. It's very chaotic. That's what I mean by there's got to be something wrong with you. If you look at the top achievers on the planet, which is what people think they aspire to be, and they live their life, they would say, this is insane to me. This is insane to me. I'll give you the best example. One of my earliest mentors, Dan Gilbert, okay? So he's the owner of Rocket Homes. He created Quicken Loans. And now, he had a stroke and he's dealing with some difficult life things. But if you understood that the vast majority of his time was spent fighting lawsuits and in courthouses, and the amount of crap that guys probably, listen, I don't know the behind the scenes. I don't want to speak to it, but he ended up having a stroke, and it's like these people, I think society has trained people to want things because they look a certain way without understanding what it takes to get there.